like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. It ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up and hand to hand, made like 5 bands a day.
Boom! What's going on? All right. One more time for the folks just joining the room. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Hold on, I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I really do. With that being said, let's jump into tonight's conversation. Hey, listen, I don't know if you knew, but this is Confederate Heritage Month. I don't know if you knew. What? I don't know if you knew, but this is Confederate Heritage Month. Did you know there was a Confederate Heritage Month? Did you know that there are states in the United States that are celebrating the fact that there was a succession? There are states that left the Union, and to this day in 2025, let me date this video because this is something that is going to continue. And when they say, oh, I wish black people would leave, I wish they would leave it in the past. All that racism, I wish they would leave it in the past. Okay, all right. I hope y'all keep that same energy in Confederate Heritage Month, which is designated as the month of April. And multiple states in the United States of America celebrate the Confederate Heritage Month. We're celebrating. Hey, it's a time for celebration. It's a time for celebration for Confederate Heritage Month. You let the state of Mississippi tell it. Right now is a time for celebration because this is the month where we have heritage of the great succession. We left the Union and we're defeated in a war. We lost, and yet we're going to celebrate. It's interesting. It's an interesting case study. In case you didn't know, let me give you some context as to what it is that I'm referring to. Y'all, check this out.
In Mississippi, Lord, Mississippi, the governor has proclaimed April Confederate Heritage Month. And next Saturday, if you're not busy, April 27th, specifically was proclaimed Confederate Memorial Day. The proclamation was shared by the Facebook page of the state landmark, the Jefferson Davis Home and Presidential Library. Check out the caption here. They invite you to come celebrate with us. Celebrate with you. Celebrate the heritage of traitors who fought to preserve slavery under the fallacy of white supremacy? Hard pass. And this is not the first year this is happening in Mississippi, but you have to ask, why does it keep happening? Well, let's get perspective now from a former governor of Mississippi, Ray Mabus. He was also Secretary of the Navy under President Obama and is a former ambassador. Governor, good to see you. Let me read first just a bit of the statement that came from Governor Tate Reeves' spokesperson. For the last 30 years, 5 Mississippi governors, Republicans and Democrats alike, have signed a proclamation recognizing the statutory state holiday and identifying April as Confederate Heritage Month. But this is a choice every time it happens. What's your reaction to this proclamation?
Well, first, I didn't do it when I was governor. And second, Confederate heritage, really, the heritage that I think of, Confederacy, is slavery, is treason, and is losing. So which one of those heritages are we really honoring here?
So there you have it. Mississippi governor has declared April Confederate Heritage Month. April, which is a longer month than Black History Month, which is February. February, keep in mind, is the shortest month of the year, happens to be Black History Month. And yet, April, according, you let the Mississippi Excuse my son in the background. But you let the Mississippi governor tell it. April is the month that we should be celebrating Confederate heritage, the heritage of losers, the heritage of racists, slave owners. We should be celebrating them according to the Mississippi governor. Right. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out, that April, in case you didn't know, because maybe you didn't know, you let the United States governor, like the governor of Mississippi, tell it, we should be celebrating the losers of the Civil War. We should be celebrating the people who fought to ensure that my ancestors will remain slaves. Unfortunately for them, they came out the losers. What? Big L. I'm sorry. I gotta take a moment to gloat and celebrate before we get into tonight's real topic. But I know a lot of people didn't know that this month, April, is Confederate Heritage Month. So in case you didn't know, now you know. There are people out here celebrating that. In case you didn't know, now you know. But with that said, tonight I want to go through, because this is something, and one thing, shout out to my regular viewers, shout out to y'all, salute to y'all. Let me give a quick round of applause to my regular viewers. The folks who usually check me out, y'all know that the things that I like to talk about on this channel are the things that I'm already interested in doing research myself on, right? So I was already researching once I found out that April was Confederate Heritage Month. Once I found out that Mississippi governor had declared April the Confederate Heritage Month, I decided, hey, I recognize that there's a lot of people out here that are still arguing in the comment section. Hey, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Some people say, hey, the Civil War was fought to maintain slavery, and people fought to end slavery. And there seems to be a lot of back and forth as if people don't know what the Civil War was about. There seems to be a lot of confusion, and I don't know how. In the age of the internet, in the age of knowledge, in the age of ChatGPT, in the age of artificial intelligence, how it is that we still don't know why the Civil War was fought. I thought, you know what? Let me go ahead and put this argument to rest. For anyone who watches my channel, now you know. All right. After tonight, in case you were ever wondering, why is it that we fought the Civil War? In case you're wondering, some people say it was over slavery. Some people say it was states' rights. Let's go ahead and put that to bed. So tonight, what we're going to be doing, we're breaking down the Declaration. And let me share this screen with y'all so y'all can see what I'm referring to here. Tonight, we're breaking down the Declaration of Causes of Succeeding States. All right, now this is a primary source. By primary source, what that means, for those who didn't attend, for the high school dropouts out there, let's be real. Y'all know on this channel, I like to break things down for the least of these, for the people who don't know. All right, we got some high school dropouts. For those who don't know, this is for the least of these, right? For the high school dropouts, a primary source means this is what the states themselves were saying. This is not a secondary source. This is not Wikipedia. This is something that should let you know this is straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, this is a reputable source that you don't have to take this one with a grain of salt. This one is coming straight from the horse's mouth. All right, that's what that means. Tonight we're breaking down the Declaration of Causes of Succeeding States. So the states themselves, tonight we're going to hear why these southern states decided that they didn't want to be part of the United States. Why did they feel like we need to fight a war? Why did they feel like we need to be separate? Why? Let's hear straight from the horse's mouth why. All right, so we don't have to keep guessing and going back and forth in the comment sections about this because I know that gets annoying. So tonight we're breaking down the Declaration of Causes of Succeeding States, and there's a number of states. There's 5 states here. All right, so we got Georgia. That's where I'm from. Hey, one time for Georgia. One time for Georgia. Shout out to Georgia. I'm from the ATL. I'm from Atlanta. So one time for Georgia. Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia. We're going to break down the reasons that they gave for leaving the Union. And here we go. Jumping right in. Here, let's start off with Georgia because, I'm from the A. I'm from the A. So let's start off with Atlanta. All right, let's start off with Georgia. The people of Georgia, having dissolved their political connections with the government of the United States of America, present to their Confederates and the world that causes which have led the separation. All right, so they're blaming these other states, they're blaming the world. Now, what do they tell us about blaming others? They're blaming others. The people of Georgia, having dissolved their political connection with the government of the USA, present their Confederates and the world the causes which have led the separation. So in case you've ever wondered, hey, why did we leave the country? Why did the southern states leave the Union? Here's why. For the last 10 years, mind you, excuse me, for the last 10 years, we have led numerous and serious causes of complaint against our non-slave holding Confederate states. So there's other states they recognize that aren't holding slaves, and they've had numerous and serious causes of complaint against them, which reference to the subject of Of African slavery. So when they say, hey, the war wasn't about slavery, well, let Georgia tell it. Let Georgia tell it. It was about slavery. You let the state of Georgia tell it. They have endeavored to weaken our security, to disturb our domestic peace and tranquility, and persistently refused to comply with their express constitutional obligations to us in reference to that property. That property is us naggers. Them naggers is the property. Refuse to comply with their express constitutional obligations to us in reference to that property, and by use of their power, So they're talking about the property and use of their power. Who is the property if you're talking about their power? Let me leave you with that. That's some food for thought, in case you didn't know. The use of their power being our power, and the federal government have striven to deprive us of an equal enjoyment of the common territories of the republic. So basically, hey, y'all are still in our right to slavery. Y'all are still in our right to enjoy our property. Y'all are infringing upon our right to use them naggers. This hostile policy of our Confederates has been pursued with every circumstance of aggravation which could arouse the passions and excite the hatred of our people. Our people have been provoked. You're provoking our people by depriving us of the right of our property, them naggers, and has placed the 2 sections of the Union for many years past in the condition of the virtual Civil War. All right, now that's interesting to me. It might not be interesting to you, but before we now, mind you, we're just in the state of Georgia. We're going to get to the other states, Mississippi, North Carolina. We're going to get to the other states, but we're just beginning here. So if ever there was a doubt when folks say, "Oh, slavery wasn't about," I mean, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Listen, from the Union perspective, see that's the thing that we got to specify. From the Union perspective, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. From the Union perspective, we could pimp past slavery. We would, according to Abraham Lincoln, and let me before we get back into this article, let me holler at y'all for a second. You let Abraham Lincoln tell it wasn't about slavery, because Abraham Lincoln would have been willing to allow slavery if he could preserve the Union. Listen to me, young folks. When you go to middle school and high school, right now we got a president, Donald Trump, in 2025. Donald Trump is changing the way that, and let alone Donald Trump, when you talk about Ron DeSantis down there in Florida, let alone when we start talking about specific states. We have a lot of governors, we have a lot of presidents, we have a lot of government administrations that is going to deny you your right to know history. So, hey, I'm going to take my time out. I'm going to take time out of this day to educate y'all. So bear with me. If y'all like this type of content, if you want to learn the history, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. Right now, on this channel, we're talking about history. We're breaking down history. You see, I'm interested in this type of thing, so I'll take my time out of my busy schedule to break this down for y'all. If y'all enjoy this type of content, hit the thumbs up button and support Black media. But tonight, we're breaking down the reasons the Southern states, since this is Confederate Heritage Month, let's break down the reasons the Southern states gave for leaving the Union. Because when they say, oh, the Civil War wasn't about slavery, they're saying that from the Northern perspective. When they say the Civil War wasn't about slavery, they're saying that from the perspective of the Democrats, from the perspective of, from the perspective of the Republicans, from the perspective of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said he didn't fight the Civil War for slavery. But the Southern states, make no mistake about it, the Confederate states, they were fighting for slavery. And tonight, I'm going to give y'all a primary source that you might not have heard of. So hit the thumbs up button and let's get back into this read. All right, so we got our people still attached to the Union from habit and national traditions, meaning they're attached to the United States. They're attached to the idea of there being the colonies. Our people are attached to the Union from the habit and national traditions, and adverse to change. Most people didn't want to leave because, hey, we've been rocking with the North. We've been rocking with the folks over there in Massachusetts, New York, Maryland. We've been rocking Maryland. Hey, that's technically they had a slave-holding state, right? So they've been attached to the national traditions and and they're averse to change. They hope that time, reason, and argument, persuasion would bring, if not redress, at least exemption from further insults, injuries, and dangers. Recent events have fully dissipated all such hopes and demonstrated the necessity of separation. So before, they thought that they could convince the folks of the North to say, hey, we're going to just allow slavery in perpetuity forever. That's what they were thinking. But the abolitionists of the North, both black and white and Jewish, that's a story for another day. The folks of the North were like, hey, listen, it's not going to work for us because we got so many black folks over here. It's adversely affecting our bottom line. We're economically not benefiting from this slavery thing. We need to, because it's a threat to our way of life. Their population down there in the South, that population continues to grow. That population, as it continues to grow, can pose a serious threat to us as a whole. So the North is saying, hey, we are not accepting your attempts at persuasion. Right? So the South, on the other hand, is saying that they hope the time, reason, and argument would bring, if not redress, at least exemption from further insults, because the folks in the North are like, hey, y'all are some backwards, incestual, y'all are sleeping with your cousins, y'all down there raping folks, y'all down there raping them black folks, y'all down there doing all types of God knows what, all types of unnatural and ungodly practices down there with your slaves. Y'all need to cut that out. Right? So they're getting insulted. They're getting embarrassed by their northern brethren. And they had thought that they could convince and talk their way out of it. But all that justification of foolishness, all that justification of incest and rape was falling on deaf ears. So they decided that, in their words, recent events have fully dissipated and demonstrated the necessity of separation. All right, so they were getting insulted. The North wasn't having it, and they finally recognized, all right, it's better if we just separate, because y'all aren't listening to our reasoning. So says the state of Georgia. All right, like I said in this video, for those who were joining late, because this is a live, and for those who are watching it on the playback, bear with me. I gotta report it or repeat it for folks who are visiting. This is the southern states. All right, this is what the southern states have to say. Our northern Confederates, after a full and calm hearing of all the facts, after a fair warning of our purpose not to submit to the rule of the authors of all these wrongdoings and injuries, have by a large majority, by a large majority, committed the government of the United States into their hands, meaning the northern states have taken control of the United States government. So says the state of Georgia. All right, let's continue. The people of Georgia, after an equally full and fair deliberate hearing of the case, have declared with equal firmness that they shall rule over them. All right, so they're saying the folks of the North have taken control of the United States, and they have heard the case, and they've decided slavery is not to be accepted. Whereas the people of Georgia, after an equally full and fair deliberate hearing of the case, have declared that they will continue, despite the arguments, despite the pushback from the northern states, despite the contrarian views, are going to continue ruling over the slaves, over my ancestors, over my folks. Grandpappy now. Now, a brief history of the rise, progress, and policy of anti-slavery and the political organization into whose hands the administration of the federal government has been committed will fully justify the pronounced verdict of the people of Georgia. Let's read that again just for your clarification. A brief history of the rise, progress, and policy of anti-slavery and the political organization into whose hands the administration of the federal government has been committed will fully justify the pronounced verdict of the people of Georgia, meaning they stand by their decision. Basically, they stand by their decision. The party of Lincoln, called the Republican Party, what? The party of Lincoln, what? The party of Lincoln, called the Republican Party, under its present name and organization, is of recent origin. Meaning, hey, this political party hasn't always been here. The Republican Party, this is what, we're in the early 1860s, 1861. We're in 1860, 1861 at the time of this writing of this article. At the time of this article, we're in 1860, 1861, right? So it's relatively new when you consider the fact that the Union has only been around since 1776. That's less than 100 years. So they say that, hey, the party of Lincoln, called the Republican Party, this is a new party. Under its present name and organization, it's of recent origins, relatively new. It is admitted to be an anti-slavery party. What? Hey, I pressed the wrong button, but check this out. One time for the political party that was anti-slavery. Can I get a round of applause? In case for the younger generation who didn't know, can I get a salute? Can I get a salute for the folks who didn't know? One time for the Republican Party who admitted to being anti-slavery. All right, today in 2025, with the amount of black folks voting Democrat, I know most people did know by now with the internet, you should know that the Republican Party was the party against slavery. But let's just read what the states themselves had to say, because this is historical fact that a lot of people might not have known. All right, so I'm hoping to bring some levity to the situation. I'm being a little facetious. I'm trying to make it an enjoyable read for you, because a lot of people don't want to take the time to sit down and read what the states have said. So I'm trying to make this a little enjoyable for you. So I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying tonight's video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, let's get back into the article. While it attracts to itself by its creed the scattered advocates of exploited political heresies, of condemned theories in political economy, the advocates of commercial restriction, of protection, of special privileges, of waste and corruption in the administration of government, anti-slavery is its mission and its purpose. All right, let's break this down one more time. It attracts people to the party. The way that the Republican Party was attracting people was by saying, hey, we're really here to get rid of condemned theories in political economy. We're here to rid ourselves of false narratives in the economy. You know how they say today is the economy stupid. We're really here on the right side of the economy. We're trying to better the economy. We're really here. This is how the Republican Party attracted itself in the age of the abolition movement. They attracted folks who weren't necessarily against slavery by saying, hey, we're better for the economy. We're going to have regulations and restrictions on all this snake oil being sold throughout the country. We're here to protect the little man. We're here to grant special privileges, meaning rights, right? We're here to end waste and corruption in government. But in reality, anti-slavery is its purpose. So says the state of Georgia. By anti-slavery, it has made power in the state. By anti-slavery, it has made a power in the state. The question of slavery was the great difficulty in the way of the formulation of the Constitution. Now we're reading the reasons that the various states of the Confederate government gave for ending or for leaving the Union. These are the reasons. Right now, we're on the state of Georgia. We're explaining why Georgia left the Union. While the subordination and the political and social inequity of the African race was fully conceded by all, What? So everyone, by all, northern states, southern states, the Confederate, the Union, the subordination, meaning the oppression and political and social inequality of the African race was conceded by all. Everyone accepted the political and social inequality, not equality, but the inequality was accepted by all. It was plainly apparent that slavery would soon disappear from what are now the non-slave holding states of the Origin 13, where they're talking about the original 13 colonies. Although that all 13 colonies accepted this, the subordination, the oppression of the African states would be accepted by all, it was apparent that in the 13 colonies, slavery was going to disappear. Okay, so says the state of Georgia. Although everyone accepted that the Africans, the black folks, were going to be oppressed, slavery was going to be ended in the 13 colonies. All right, that's what they're saying. Now, that's what they're saying. That's what the state of Georgia is saying in the primary source, the causes for the succession of the Confederate States. Now, the oppression of slavery was then, as now, general in those states, and the Constitution was made with the direct reference to the fact. But a distinct abolition party was not formed in the United States for more than half a century, For more than half a century after the government went into operation. So what? So the government has been in operation because, mind you, the Revolutionary War, 1776. 1776 was the Revolutionary War, the Declaration of Independence. So for more than half a century, for more than 50 years, the oppression and inequality of the African race was accepted by all. So says the state of Georgia. And in 2025, we all recognize. But they, at that time, hey, we're accepting it. No pushback here. No pushback from the northern states. Everyone accepts the oppression of the African race for more than half a century. So says the state of Georgia. The main reason was the North, even if united, could not control both branches of legislature during any portion of that time, meaning the northern states, even though some of them might have been against slavery at different times, different of those 13 colonies, some of those colonies, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Maryland, some of those northern states, maybe Maryland was a slave holding state, but some of those 13 colonies, maybe they were against it at different times, but they couldn't control the legislature as a whole in the 50 years after the Revolutionary War. All right. And we see that today. We see the fact that different states might have different perspectives. Take gay marriage, for example. Some states might approve it. Take abortion in 2025. Take abortion. Some states might approve abortion. Some states, I can't say that word on YouTube, so let me digress. But some states might approve certain medical procedures. Some states might not, right? But they couldn't have any unity at that time. They didn't have the unity to end slavery. Therefore, such an organization must have resulted either in utter failure or in the total overthrow of the government. Meaning they only had two options: either give up or you completely overthrow the government. The material prosperity of the North, meaning they were rich, was greatly dependent on the federal government. And hey, as a DC resident, that's true today. Check out your news in 2025, April 15th of 2025. I'm going to go ahead and date this video just because I really don't care. I'm really just giving this information to anyone who's interested. So I'm going to date the video. But in April of 2025, y'all check out the budgetary changes that have been made to the District of Columbia under the Trump administration. Because from my understanding, billions of dollars have been lost. Why? Because the material prosperity of the North has been greatly dependent on the federal government. Right? Right? Now, that of the South, not at all. The South has been more industrial based, more based on the agriculture, more based on slavery, whereas the federal government has been more beneficial to the northern states. So says Georgia in 1860. In the first years of the Republic, the navigating commercial and manufacturing interests of the North began to seek the profit and aggrandizement at the expense of the agricultural interests. I hope I'm trying to make this video interesting for y'all, because this is something that I'm interested in. I went to law school. I like to read. I'm a loser. I'm a lame. I find this stuff interesting. All right. So I hope I'm trying to make this stuff interesting for you, because I know most people are going to check off. But hey, if this is interesting to you, hit the thumbs up button to spread us in the algorithm, because this is something I find interesting. This is for us losers who like to know what the Civil War was all about. Even the owners of fishing smacks sought and obtained bounties for pursuing their own business, which yet excuse me, God bless me, which can yet continue. And 500,000 is now paid to them annually out of the treasury. That used to be big money. 500,000 back in 1860, that used to be big money. The navigating interests begged for protection against competition in coasting trade. Congress granted both requests and by prohibitory acts gave an absolute monopoly of this business to each of their interests, which they enjoy without diminution to this day. Not content with these great and unjust advantages, not content with these great and unjust advantages, they have sought to throw the legitimate burden of their business as much as possible upon the public. Meaning, hey, although they've got these unjust advantages, although they're getting subsidies from the federal government, they're still trying to put their burden, meaning their expenses, on the public. Meaning they're trying to end slavery, which is this doesn't. Let's continue. All right, they're trying to put their expenses on the general public, and we see that today when you see bank bailouts and whatnot. But they're saying that, hey, they're not content with the advantages that the northern states have been given. They're looking to put their expenses as much as possible on the public. They have succeeded in throwing the cost of lighthouses, buoys, and the maintenance of their seamen upon the treasury and the government, which now pays over $2 million annually for the support of basically the Navy, the seamen. These interests, in connection with the commercial and manufacturing classes, have also succeeded by means of subventions to mail steamers and the reduction in postage stamps, and relieving their businesses from the payment of about $7 million annually, throwing it upon the public treasury under the name of postal deficiency, meaning the post office. You know, to this day, they're trying to end the USPS. They're trying to end the U.S. Postal Service to this day. Look it up. In 2025, they're still trying to end the Postal Service. They're trying to end the mailing services here in the United States. Look it up. There is a very strong, and I'm dating this video because hey, 10 years from now, this information will still be very relevant and very. I'm thinking about how this video will age as I'm making it. So I hope my son. Hey, shout out to you, Lou. Shout out to you, Lou. Check this video out 10 years in the future when we're talking about this. I'm breaking this down. Listen, man. Listen, son. Listen, son. The reasons Georgia gave, the place where I'm from, the reason they gave for leaving the Union was one, number slavery, and two, the money that the federal government was giving the northern states as opposed to the southern states. We'll see if the USPS is still in service when you're watching this, son. Now, the manufacturing interests entered into the same struggle early and has clamored steadily for the government bounties and special favors. This interest was confined mainly to the eastern and middle non-slaveholding states. Wielding these, make sure y'all can see this. Wielding these great states, it held great power and influence, and its demands were in full proportion to its power. Meaning at one time it was reasonable. The manufacturers and miners wisely based their demands upon special facts and reasons rather than upon general principles, and thereby mollified much of the opposition of the opposing interests. They pleaded in their favor the infancy of their business in the country. So they say, hey, we're new businessmen, we're trying to build up the manufacturing, and we're doing our mining up in the north in Pennsylvania and Vermont, and we're doing this mining. Hey, y'all gotta come on now. The scarcity of labor and capital, because hey, y'all got all them slaves. Y'all got all them slaves in the south, but in the north, we're doing this ourselves. Come on, man. We doing all this mining and whatnot. We don't really have that many people over here in New Jersey, and we don't have that many people. The hostile legislation of other countries toward them. Great Britain is against us. You know, we got to stick together. Like Great Britain is against us. France, we fought the French, the Revolutionary War against the British. We fought the war against the French. We fought the war against the Spanish. Hey, we don't have slave labor like y'all do in the South. We need more government assistance. We've got a scarcity of labor. We've got a scarcity of capital. And we're fighting these wars against the British and the French hey, come on now, we need some help. This is what the northern colonies, the northern states are telling to the South. Now, the great necessity of their fabrics in the time of war. Like I said, they're going through the war. And necessity of high duties to pay the debt incurred in our war for independence, war against the British, right? These reasons prevailed. So the arguments that the North made to get money from the federal government over the needs of the South, those reasons prevailed. And they received for many years enormous bounties by the general acquiescence of the whole country, meaning all of the United States was giving giving federal funding to the northern states and not to the southern states due to the fact that they were still recovering from the War of Independence. Mind you, this is less than 100 years after the War of Independence from Great Britain. This is after the war against the French. So the North at this time was not as strong as the South. So the North was getting federal funds, whereas the South was basically living off of the slave labor. And we're going through the primary source of the states the reasons that the Confederate States gave for leaving the Union. But when these reasons ceased, meaning when they recovered from all this war-torn losses, they were no less clamorous of government protection. They still wanted government funding. But their clamors were less heated, meaning the government wasn't giving out as much money once they, hey, listen, the Revolutionary War, that was 1776. We're in 1860 at the time of this writing from the southern states. Hey, it's 1860. You still telling us about the problems y'all had because of the Revolutionary War? That was 1776. It's time for y'all to bounce back. Come on now. We're not giving y'all all this money. So says the state of Georgia. The country had put the principle of protection upon trial and condemned it. Hey, we've heard your complaints. We've thought about it. We put it on trial, and we're rejecting your complaints. The federal government's not, we're done giving y'all money. After having enjoyed protection to the extent of from 15 to 200%, and mind you, that is a big range, but we're going to continue, upon their entire business for above 30 years, the Act of 1846 was passed. All right? All right? So, hey, y'all been enjoying these protections from the federal government. You've got all this money. Hey, we're over 30 years because due to the Act of 1846. Now, it avoided sudden change, but the principle was settled. And free trade, low duties, and economy and public expenditures was the verdict of the American people. The American people, and I'm just breaking down, I'm trying to put it I'm breaking down legalese for you. They've got it in legal terms. I'm trying to break it down for the average citizen who's watching my video. Y'all can understand. So the American people at this time, we've heard your complaints. We've heard the situation. We've come to a decision. We're rejecting your plea that the federal government needs to benefit the northern states over the southern states. So says the state of Georgia. Now, the South and the Northwestern states sustain this policy, meaning the Northwest, meaning when you start moving out there towards what? The South, I mean, of course, the South, and Northwestern states, when you start talking about West Virginia, when you start talking about, Kentucky, you start talking about the Northwestern states, they're saying, hey, we're done giving y'all this money that we were giving y'all based on the Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War is over with. That was almost 100 years ago. We're done giving y'all this money. The Northwestern states and the South, we're all in agreement. There was but small hope of its reversal upon the direct issue. None at all. Meaning, hey, we've come to a consensus on this. We're not changing our minds. All right? Now, all these classes saw this and felt it cast about for new allies. The anti-slavery sentiment of the North offered the best chance for success. An anti-slavery party must necessarily look to the North alone for support, meaning the South is not accepting or supporting an anti-slavery party. If you want to have a national party, a political party that is capable of running for the president, the executive branch, don't look to the South for help. If you are an anti-slavery party, so says the state of Georgia at the time of their succession, when they're given their reasons for leaving the Union, they say an anti-slavery party must look to the North alone for support, because the South is not going to support you. But a united North was now strong enough to control the government in all of its departments, meaning even though the Southern states weren't rocking, even though the Southern states were not going to support a party that is against slavery, the North no longer needs the South to make this decision. They've got the votes. They've got the representation. When you look at the Senate, there's 2 Senate senators for every state, whereas the House of Representatives is based on population. The North now it has the population. They now have the ability to control the government in all its departments, meaning executive, legislative, and judicial. The North doesn't need the South anymore in order to control the branches of government, regardless of the fact that the Southern states aren't going to support an anti-slave party. The North is able to control that by itself without the Southern input. And a sectional party was therefore determined upon. Now, time and issues upon slavery were necessary to its completion and final triumph. The feeling of anti-slavery, which it was well known was very general among the people of the North, had been long dormant or passive. It needed only question to arouse it into aggressive activity. And Northern folks, they were accepting anti-slavery views. The South weren't, but this is common knowledge at this point. This question was before us, the difference in opinion there. We had acquired a large territory by successful war with Mexico. What? When you talking about, remember the Alamo, when you talk about the Louisiana Purchase, when you talk about, well, Louisiana Purchase, that had to do with France, but still, this question was before us. So the question of the difference between views on slavery between the North and the South. The South had acquired a large territory by the successful war with Mexico. They got Texas, all right? They got a large territory. They got Texas by itself. Texas by itself is, forget when you start talking about California, when you talk about Arizona, when you talk about Nevada, when you talk about the war that they had with Mexico, and say, hey, we got a lot of land down here in the South. We got a lot of land down here. Thanks to the war that we won against Mexico. Congress had to govern it. Now, even though we won it down here in the South, we got the state of Texas, we got the state of Arizona, we got the state of Nevada, we got California, when you start talking about the South and the West, we got these states out here, but the North wants to govern it. The North wants to control it, even though we as Southern states fought for it. So says Georgia. Now, how, in relation to slavery, was the question then demanding a solution? Now, we got to come up with some type of solution. We just fought these wars. We had our folks dying over there in Texas. We won, and now you folks over there in the North want to tell us that we can't have no slaves down here? We didn't fought all these wars. We didn't die to keep our naggers down here. And now you're telling us we can't have no slaves that y'all sold us? What? So the question is demanding a solution. Now, this state of facts, these are the facts up until this point, and mind you, I've been breaking it down, pausing it where or not, but we've been reading thus far the facts from the state of Georgia's perspective. This state of facts gave form and shape to the anti-slavery sentiment throughout the North, and the conflict began. Hey, the war fought because of the reasons I just gave y'all. Northern anti-slavery men of all parties, meaning it wasn't just they like to say the Republican Party was the party of abolitionists. Well, we also had different parties. We had the anti-slavery men. The Whig Party was not anti-slavery. They were kind of split. All right, do your research on the Whig Party. There were some folks in the Whig Party who were for slavery. There were some people in the Whig Party that was against slavery. And because the Whig Party wasn't able to make up its mind, the Whig Party split. All right? The Republican Party was against slavery. The Democratic was for slavery. The Whig Party, they couldn't make a decision. They couldn't pick a side. The Whig Party, you don't hear about the Whig Party in 2025 because they couldn't pick a side. And that might be a video for another day when you talk about the Lord God, when he says, hey, because you were lukewarm, I spat you out. I would rather you be hot or cold. I would rather you be for us or against us. But because you were lukewarm, because you couldn't make a decision, I spat you out. Well, that's what happened to the Whig Party. Do your research on the Whig Party. There were some folks in the Whig Party who was against slavery and they couldn't make a decision, so the Whig Party fell apart. All right. Some folks who were for slavery, they went to the Democrat Party, and the people who were against slavery, they went to the Republican Party, and the Whig Party split apart. So that's why they say Northern anti-slavery men of all parties. Why don't they say of your party or of my party, the Republican Party, Democratic Party? They say of all parties because at that time there were multiple parties. The Whig Party, as I just broke down, they were indecisive. But they asserted the right to exclude slavery from the territory by congressional legislation and demanded the prompt and efficient exercise of this power to that end. All right. Let me break that down for you. So the Northern Anti-Slavery Party, the Northern Anti-Slavery men of all parties decided, hey, we're going to exclude territory altogether. We're going to end slavery. We're going to end slavery and we're going to take the power of the federal government to make sure that it happens. All right. The people who were against slavery, regardless of party, they said, we're going to come together. We're going to make sure slavery ends. Now, this they consider, they being the state of Georgia, considers this insulting. The state of Georgia says this is insulting and unconstitutional. And it's a demand which was met with great modernization and firmness by the South. Meaning the folks of all different types of parties, folks like to say, oh, well, it was the Democratic or the Republican Party that ended slavery. Well, it was a lot of folks in the Whig Party, the independents. You would call the folks of the Whig Party, you would call them independents today. The folks of all different parties got together to end it. Not just the Republicans, but the Democrats, the Southern Democrats, found it insulting and unconstitutional, with which they were ready to respond. We had shed our blood and paid our money for its acquisition. Hey, we fought for this. We spent our money, and now you're telling us we can't keep these naggers? We demanded of the division of it on the line of the Missouri. You ever heard of the north of the Mississippi line? Well, they say, hey, we demanded it, a division of it on the line of the Missouri line. Restriction or an equal participation in the whole of it. Man, hey, we demand, after fighting, we done fought the Mexicans for it. We done fought the French. We done fought the British. And now you're telling us we can't keep these naggers? We demand. We demand it. But these propositions were refused. The North wouldn't accept it. The agitation became general and the public danger was great. The case of the South was impregnable. The price of the acquisition was the blood and treasure of both sections. Of all, and therefore it belongs to all, upon the principles of equity and justice. I mean, hey, everyone down here in the South, we done gave our family members, we done gave our blood, we done gave our money to keep these naggers in line. We done gave our blood and we done gave our money to keep our independence from Mexico. And we demand the ownership. We demand the right to continue oppressing these naggers because we done fought for it. So says the state of Georgia. And I'm sorry, guys. I know I got a lot of reading to do tonight, and I'm gonna, I enjoy this, so it's kind of, I'm gonna have to do my best to not slow y'all down because I know sometimes I'm just enjoying it myself, so I'll be forgetting that there's actually people here watching me. So I'm gonna try to not to give my 2 cents and not give my my commentary as often. I'm gonna try to just continue reading and let y'all get a gist of what's going on here. So I hope I can make this interesting for y'all. The Constitution delegated no power to Congress to exclude either party from its free enjoyment. Meaning the Constitution didn't tell either party that it can't have slavery. The Constitution delegated no power to Congress to exclude, meaning to prevent either party from its free enjoyment. The Constitution didn't outlaw slavery. Therefore, our right was good under the Constitution. Therefore, our right of slavery to own slaves was good under the Constitution. Our rights were further fortified by the practice of the government from the beginning, meaning from the beginning we've been owning our slaves. Slavery was forbidden in the country northwest of the Ohio River by what it is called Ordinance of 1787. That ordinance was adopted under the old Confederation and by the assent of Virginia, who owned and ceded the country. And therefore, this case must stand on its own special circumstances. The government of the United States claimed territory by virtue of the Treaty of 1783 with Great Britain, which acquired territory by secession from Georgia and North Carolina, by treaty from France, and by treaty from Spain. Meaning, hey, we had treaties with France, we had treaties with Great Britain, we had treaties with Spain. We got treaties. This is our land, and we've had slaves here from the beginning. So says the state of Georgia. These acquisitions largely exceeded the original limits of the republic. In all of these acquisitions, the policy of the government was uniform. It was the same. It was the same throughout the Union. The North, the South, everyone agreed that slavery was okay. And all of a sudden, you're trying to make slavery not okay? Well, now, so says the state of Georgia, we're not having it. They immigrated thither with their property of every kind, including slaves. All were equally protected by public authority in their persons and property until the inhabitants became sufficiently numerous and otherwise capable of bearing the burdens and performing the duties of self-government, meaning, and we got enough people here, you can take care of yourself. When they were admitted into the Union upon equal terms with the other states, with whatever Republican constitution they might adopt for themselves. Meaning, hey, we started off with these 13 colonies. We had no problem having slaves in these 13 colonies. Everyone was in agreement. And as the population continued to grow, as we continue to expand, we accepted property rights to slavery throughout the nation. All right, so says the state of Georgia. Under this equally just and beneficial policy, law and order, stability, law and order, right? Under the, hey, this is just law. Hey, this is just under the equally just and beneficent policy of law and order. You ever wonder why black folks in America, we don't seem to much care about law and order? Under the equally just and beneficent policy of law and order, stability and progress, peace and prosperity marked every step of the progress of these new communities until they entered as great and prosperous commonwealths into the sisterhood of American states. Essentially breaking that down, it means as the populations grew, they got enough people, they accepted our ideas of law and order, meaning we could return slaves, and we had law and order. We accepted the laws of the land, right? And that continued to expand. Now, in 1820, the North endeavored to overturn this wise and successful policy and demand that the state of Missouri should not be admitted into the Union unless she first prohibited slavery within her limits by her Constitution. Now we can see back in 1821 or 1820, the Union was like, okay, look, we're expanding. We're going to accept other states. We started off with the 13 colonies. These other places are growing. We're going to accept y'all into the Union. But hey, no more slavery, especially as we start to expand out west. We don't got no slavery in California. Missouri, you want to join us as the Union? Fine, you can join us, but we're not going to. We're trying to get away from this slavery thing. All right. Some of our states, they already got slavery. The new states, you want to join us? All right, slavery. That's the southern states got grandfathered in. All right, they were already here. They got grandfathered in. You new states, y'all haven't done nothing for us. Y'all haven't fought no wars for us. Y'all haven't spent no money with us. Y'all not good money. If y'all want to join us, y'all got to end that slavery. So says the Union to the state of Missouri in the year of 1820. Now, after a bitter and protracted struggle, the North was defeated in her special object, but her policy and position led to the adoption of a section in the law for the admission of Missouri, prohibiting slavery in all that prohibiting slavery in all that portion of the territory acquired from France, lying north of 36 degrees 30 minutes north latitude and outside of Missouri. So you can go out and do your research on the 36 degrees 30 minutes north latitude outside of Missouri. The venerable Madison, at the time of its adoption, declared it unconstitutional. Let me text my wife one. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm kind of hungry. I want to text my wife because I want a nice salad today. I don't know what she cooked, and I'm sorry to interrupt this video while I'm live, but I'm just going to tell my wife real quick. Hey, can you make me? I would like a nice salad. Hey, babe, let me make this video. Hold on. Hey, babe, can you make me a salad for dinner? I think you have something else prepared, but I want the salad in addition to whatever it is that you cook. Thanks, babe. Love you. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, because I would like a salad right now. I would like a salad. All right, let's get back into this article. So after a bitter and protracted struggle, the North was defeated in her special object, but her policy and position led to the adoption of a section in the law for admission of Missouri prohibiting slavery in all that portion. All right. The venerable Madison, at the time of its adoption, declared it unconstitutional. You can't stop slavery at the time. Mr. Jefferson condemned the restriction and foresaw its consequences and predicted that it would result in the dissolution of the Union. Hey, do you know what's going to happen if we try to stop this slavery? The southern states are going to revolt. It's going to be the end of our country. We can't keep a union when half the states want slavery and half the states don't. If you try to stop the southern states from keeping slavery, they're going to move away from us. The only way we can keep our country together is to accept the fact that they got slaves. And who cares? It doesn't harm us. Let the southern folks keep their slaves. We're going to stay white and rich and we're going to be good. We can keep our country together. And the only harm is, hey, some naggers got to go through some rough times, right? No big deal. Who cares? So says Jefferson and Madison, according to Georgia. Now, his prediction is now history, meaning he was right. His prediction, Madison and Jefferson's predictions, they came to fruition. The North demanded the application of the principle of prohibition of slavery to all of the territory acquired from Mexico and all other parts of the public domain, then and in all future time. It was the announcement of her purpose to appropriate to herself all the public domain then owned and thereafter to be acquired by the United States. The claim itself was less arrogant and insulting than the reason which she supported it. And you're right to the nation. That's worse than the reasoning you gave to support it. The claim itself was less arrogant and insulting than the reason which she gave to support it. That reason was her fixed purpose to limit. The reason that she gave was the purpose to limit, restrain, and finally abolish slavery in states where it exists. Meaning it's not enough for you to prohibit slavery in the new states that are joining the Union. You want to stop slavery and restrain slavery in the states where it already exists. And we're not having it. So says Georgia. The South, with great unanimity, declared her purpose to resist the principle of prohibition to the last extremity. Meaning, hey, we're gonna fight, we're gonna die over these slaves. We keeping these naggers. Forget what you talking about. Oh, you say we can't have them? Hey, over my dead body. We're ready to resist and we're ready to fight wars over the prohibition to the last extremity, meaning we're going to give our last. This particular question, in connection with the series of questions affecting the same subject, was finally disposed of by the defeat of prohibitory legislation, meaning legislation paperwork that says we can't do it. The presidential, let me just keep that on the screen in case you want to see it. I really appreciate y'all rocking with me. I don't know who's getting any value from tonight's broadcast, but if you're getting some value from tonight's broadcast, just hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Now, the presidential election of 1852 resulted in the total overthrow. Hold on. All right. The presidential election of 1852 resulted in the total overthrow of the advocates of restriction in their third parties. Friends, immediately, hold on, let's read that again. The presidential election of 1852 resulted in the total overthrow of the advocates of restriction and their party friends. Immediately after this result, the anti-slavery portion of the defeated party resolved to unite all the elements in the North opposed to slavery and to stake their future political fortunes upon the hostility to slavery everywhere. This is the party to whom the people of the North have committed the government. And hey, the government is right now controlled by this party that's against our slavery. What? What? You let these abolitionist, anti-slavery political party control our government? What's going on with you white folks? Y'all don't know no better? Sucks for you. Sucks for you. They raised their standard in 1856 and were barely defeated. They entered the presidential contest again in 1860 and they won. 1860, and that's where we're at now at the time of this writing. The prohibition of slavery in the territories, hostility to it everywhere, the equality of black and white races, disregard of all constitutional guarantees in its favor, were boldly proclaimed by its leader and applauded by its followers. Shout out to the folks of the Union for doing the right thing back in 1860. I appreciate y'all. with these principles on their banners and these utterances on their lips, the majority of the people of the North demand that we shall receive them as our rulers. The prohibition of slavery in the territories is the cardinal. Huh? What? Let me highlight that. The prohibition of slavery in the territories is the cardinal principle of this organization. So says the state of Georgia. Okay, now tonight we're breaking down Georgia. We got 5 other states. We got Mississippi, North Carolina. We got 5 other states that we're going to break down. Right now, we're breaking down Georgia, the place where I'm from. I don't want to hear nobody from the state of Georgia talking about the Civil War wasn't about slavery, because you let the state of Georgia tell it. The state of Georgia says the prohibition of slavery in the territories is the cardinal principle of this organization. All right, now that's the state of Georgia. We haven't even gotten into Mississippi, North Carolina, and other states. All right, but this is something that we got to highlight because I'm from Atlanta, and that's why we're starting off with Georgia. That's where we're going to begin the conversation. We're starting off with Georgia. You let Georgia tell it, the prohibition of slavery in the territories is the cardinal, meaning the supreme, the main number one reason of this organization. The number one reason of the Confederate States is because of the prohibition of slavery. You let the state of Georgia tell it. All right. So next time you see somebody with that rebel flag down there in Georgia, riding around with that truck, showing the Confederate flag, and you say, oh, well, they're just proud of their heritage. Okay, well, their heritage says that the prohibition of slavery is the main reason that they even came about in the first place. So says the state of Georgia. I want to point that out, and I need to emphasize that and take a moment to reiterate that. You from the state of Georgia, we're going to get into Mississippi and Louisiana, we're going to get into North Carolina, but you let Georgia tell it, it's because of slavery. Now, for 40 years, this question has been considered and debated in the halls of Congress, before the people, by the press, and before the tribunals of justice. And they've been arguing about this ever since, well, more than 40 years, because we're talking about ever since the Revolutionary War, which is in 1776. And this is going on for well over half a century. The majority of the people of the North in 1860 decided it was in their own favor. We, being the state of Georgia, the state of Georgia, them good folks down there in the state of Georgia, refused to submit to that judgment, and in vindication of our refusal, we offer the Constitution of our country. Man, y'all got a country. We're going to offer our country, and we're not going with y'all country. We're going to make our own proposal and point to the total absence of any express power to exclude us. Meaning, hey, forget what you're talking about. We're going to make our own country. Why? Because of the prohibition of slavery. Now, we offer the practice of government for the first 30 years of its existence in complete refutation of the position that any such power is either necessary, meaning we really don't need the northern states because y'all been keeping all that money from the federal government in the northern states coming off the heels of the Revolutionary War and the French War. Y'all been going through all these wars. You keeping all the money out there in the northern states. We really don't need y'all. So says the state of Georgia. We refuse to submit to that judgment, and in vindication of our refusal, we offer the Constitution of our own government and say, hey, we offer the practice of our government for the first 30 years of its existence in complete refutation of the position that any of any such power is either necessary or proper to the execution of any power in relation to its territories. Meaning we really don't need y'all. All right. Let me break that down, put it in plain English for you. We don't need you. We don't need you. Y'all got the northern states, but you're keeping all that money from the federal government to yourselves. You're keeping it in the north anyway. Meaning we don't recognize the fact that y'all are even a necessary power. We can have this power on our own self. We govern ourselves. Forget y'all. We're going to keep our slaves. We don't need nothing from y'all. Good luck. We offer the judgment of a large minority of the people of the North, meaning it's a large, non-insignificant amount of people in the North who agree with us. Y'all act like all the folks in the North was against slavery, but there's a large minority of the people of the North who agree with us, amounting to more than 1/3 who united with the unanimous voice of the South, meaning more than a third. It's not just a third, it's more than 33%. A third is 33%. It's more than 33%, meaning you're pushing half the people. You're pushing half the people of the North that's siding with us. Hey, half the people up in the North agree that slavery is okay. And y'all trying to hold it against us. This usurpation, and finally, meaning usurping our power. And finally, we offer the judgment of the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest judicial tribunal of our country, in our favor. Meaning y'all pushing against us as if we're doing something wrong. The majority of the North agrees with us. All of the South agrees with us. The Supreme Court agrees with us. Y'all folks in the North, y'all tripping. If you let me sell it in 2025, put that in plain English for you. The state of Georgia said, hey, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. Everybody agrees with us. Most of the folks in the North agree with us. Everybody in the South agrees with us. The Supreme Court agrees with us. Y'all tripping. We're not giving up our slaves. So says the state of Georgia. This evidence ought to be conclusive. This should be enough that we have never surrendered this right. Hey, it should be enough. We're not giving up this right. And it's not like we gave it up and we're trying to get it back now. We're not giving up our right to own these naggers. The conduct of our adversaries admonishes us that if we had surrendered it, it is time to resume it. Meaning we never gave up the right to own slaves. And if we did, let's get it back. If we did give up our right to own slaves, hey, we want the right to own slaves back. We're not giving up on that right. The faithless conduct of our adversaries is not confined to such acts as might be aggrandized themselves or for their section of the Union. They are content if they can only injure us. I mean, hey, the only reason they don't even care about the facts that we're in the right here, legally speaking. The only reason they want to do this is to hurt us. The Constitution declares that persons charged with crimes in one state, meaning runaway slaves, the Constitution that declares that persons charged with crimes in one state and fleeing to another shall be delivered up on the demand of the executive authority of the state from which they flee, meaning the runaway slaves have to be returned, to be tried in the jurisdiction where the crime was committed. Meaning, hey, you got slaves down here from South Carolina who's running up there to Pennsylvania. Imagine running from Virginia on foot. You go from on foot from Virginia to Pennsylvania because you want your freedom. You're like, hey, I'm going to run away. I'm leaving Virginia. I'm going to go up to Pennsylvania. I'm in Virginia. I'm going to run up. I'm in North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm in West Virginia. I'm in Kentucky. And I'm going to leave Kentucky and I'm going to go up to New York. I'm going to make my way up to Pennsylvania. I'm going to make my way up to Delaware. All right? and they say, hey, the Constitution says you got to give us our naggers back. They ran away to y'all for safety. Give us our naggers back. It would appear difficult to employ language freer from ambiguity. Meaning, hey, it's very clear. It's not like it was something that's confused, it's ambiguous, it's something that wasn't clear. No, it would appear difficult. It would be hard to make it less ambiguous. It's very clear that we have the right to own our slaves. Yet, for more than 20 years, the non-slaveholding states generally have wholly refused to deliver up to us persons charged with the crimes of affecting slave property. Meaning y'all got all these abolitionists. Y'all got all these abolitionists stealing our slaves. They won't give us our slaves back. You got all these abolitionists. They taking our slaves. They're not going to give us our slaves back. And the law is very clear that no matter what state they go to, as long as they're breaking a crime, which is running away from slavery, y'all got to give us our naggers back. So says the state of Georgia. Our Confederates with punic faith shield and give sanctuary to all criminals who seek to deprive us of this property or who use it to destroy us. This clause of the Constitution has no other sanction than their good faith. That is withheld from us. We are remediless in the Union. Out of it, we are remitted to the laws of the nation. Meaning, hey, even though these folks are these abolitionists, when I say these abolitionists are breaking the law. They're housing runaway slaves who are criminals in the eyes of the state of Georgia. And you northern states are housing our criminals, housing our runaway slaves. And y'all not doing nothing to return us to our property, even though, according to your Constitution, you have an unambiguous, meaning a very clear and not confusing obligation to return us our property. You got our property up there in those northern states. You won't return it. You're breaking your own laws. So says the state of Georgia. Now, a similar provision of the Constitution requires them to surrender fugitives from labor. This provision and the one last referred to were our main inducements for confederating with the northern states, meaning we would have never accepted the United States in the first place if we would have known that y'all wouldn't return to us our slaves and our property. Y'all are keeping our property from us, and if you would have told us from the beginning, we would have never helped y'all fight Great Britain. So says the state of Georgia. Without them, it is historically true that we would have rejected the Constitution. Hey, we would have rejected the Constitution if we would have known that y'all wasn't going to let us have our slaves. In the 4th year of the Republic, Congress passed a law to give full vigor and efficiency to the important provision. This act depended to a considerable degree upon the local magistrates in the several states for its efficiency. The non-slaveholding states generally repealed all laws intended to aid the execution of that act and imposed penalties upon those citizens whose loyalty to the Constitution and their oaths might have induced them to discharge their duty. Let me break that down for y'all. I apologize, I got to keep breaking it down, but the English, I understand it as I'm reading it, but I got to make sure that y'all can understand it. And maybe I should just read it straight through. I don't think any of y'all actually care about this video anyway. If you made it this far in this video, I appreciate y'all. Y'all some real writers. Y'all are the real ones if you made it this far in the video, because most people probably would have logged off by now. But this is something I find interesting. So I'm reading not just for y'all's interest, but I'm reading because I'm interested. Basically, what the state of Georgia is saying is the non-slaveholding states, meaning the northern states, they generally repealed, meaning they usually canceled all the laws which were intended to aid the execution of the return of the slaves. Meaning any law that you have returning the slaves to the South, they tended to fight against that. And they imposed penalties upon those citizens whose loyalty to the Constitution, meaning they imposed penalty against the people who sent the slaves back to the South. They phrase it as the people whose loyalty is to the Constitution and their oaths might be induced to discharge their duty, meaning there were penalties against the people who were sending slaves back to the South. And for that, you can go check out the movie 12 Years a Slave. That's a very interesting movie, 12 Years a Slave, where they break down a historically accurate case of a man who was sent down to the South to endure slavery despite being born in the North and not being a slave. So that's very interesting. If you check out the movie 12 Years a Slave. Let's keep reading. Congress then passed the Act of 1850, providing for the complete execution of this duty by federal officers. This law, which their own bad faith rendered absolutely indispensable for the protection of the constitutional rights, was instantly met with ferocious revilings and all conceivable modes of hostility, meaning folks in the North weren't having it. Okay, they tried to pass a law in 1850. Mind you, this article was written in, not article, but these reasons for the Civil War given by the state of Georgia was given in 1860. So 10 years before this reason for succession was printed, the laws were passed to allow folks to send slaves back to the South, and the northern states weren't having it. The Supreme Court unanimously, in their own local courts, with equal unanimity, with the single and temporary exception of the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, sustained its constitutionality in all of its provisions. Yet it stands today a dead letter for all practicable purposes in every slaveholding state in the Union. We have their covenants, we have their oaths to keep and observe it. But the unfortunate claim, even accompanied by a federal officer with the mandate of the highest judicial authority in his hands, is everywhere met with fraud, with force, and with legislative enactment to elude, to resist, and to defeat him. Claimants are murdered with impunity. Officers of the law are beaten by frantic mobs, instigated by inflammatory appeals from persons holding the highest public employment in the states and supported by legislation in conflict with the clearest provisions of the Constitution and even the ordinary principles of humanity. Shout out to all those folks who were beating up cops. Basically, if you read this, what they're saying is it was some cops. There were officers. This was before police officers. This was slave patrols, slave catchers. There were cops, modern day cops. Now, today, you would call them cops. But at that time, they were called slave catchers. And those slave catchers were getting beaten, mobbed. Niggas was smacking them up. They were smacking those cops up because they wanted to send slaves back to the South. So they said, the state of Georgia said it's difficult to perceive how we could suffer more. Shout out to them, y'all. It is difficult to perceive how we could suffer more by the hostility than by the fraternity of such brethren. Let's see how much further we got. All right, we're almost into Mississippi. We're just going to read Georgia today because I know this might be a lot for y'all to get through. So we're going to break it down. We're just going to go through Georgia today. We'll save Mississippi for another day. For probably tomorrow. I might make a different video every day this week on this topic. So I appreciate y'all. If y'all are enjoying this topic, be sure to hit the thumbs up button because keeps me motivated to keep this thing going. All right. So these, hold on. Where did I cut off? There we go. The public law of civilized nations requires every state to restrain its citizens or subjects from committing acts injurious to the peace and security of any other state, and from attempting to excite insurrection, or to lessen the security, or to disturb the tranquility of their neighbors. And our Constitution wisely gives Congress the power to punish all offenses against the laws of the nations. Again, folks were beating up the slave catchers. Basically, folks were beating up the slave catchers, and Georgia's not happy about that. These are sound and just principles which have received the approbation of just men in all countries and all centuries, but they are wholly disregarded by the people of the northern states and the federal government. It's impotent to maintain them. For 20 years past, meaning for over 20 years, the abolitionists and their allies in the northern states have been engaged in constant efforts to subvert our institutions and to excite insurrection and servile war among us. They have sent emissaries among us for the accomplishment of these purposes. Some of these efforts have received the public sanction of a majority of the leading men of the Republican Party in the national councils, the same men who are now proposed as our leaders. These efforts have in one instance led to the actual invasion of the slaveholding states and those of the murderers and incendiaries who escaped public justice by flight. I'm out of here. Have found fraternal protection among our northern Confederates. Oh, I'm going to the north. Oh, I'm going. Zoom. Nice. Well done. Well played. These are the same men who say the Union shall be preserved. So in case you're just joining us, just a quick recap. The state of Georgia is explaining the reason why they are leaving the Union. And their reasoning is, hey, you guys are trying to abolish slavery. You guys have been beating up our slave catchers. You guys have, despite the fact that you guys told Missouri, the state of Missouri, that they cannot join the Union unless they refuse to have slavery. So all throughout what we've read tonight, this is a primary source of the state of Georgia giving their reason for leaving the Union. It's all about slavery. I mean, in case you didn't know, it's all about slavery. Hey, you're beating up our slave catchers. We have the right to these slaves. It was legal in all of the colonies before, and all of a sudden you guys have changed the laws against us, and the southern states are no longer needed in order to abolish slavery because the political parties of the North, namely the Republican Party, has become so strong that you don't even need the Southern complicity. You don't even need the Southern states to agree. So just the Northern states can rule over the Southern states without our input. These are the reasons that Georgia is giving for ending or for leaving the Union. And we're reaching the conclusion here of why Georgia decided to leave the Union. Such are the opinions and such are the practices of the Republican Party, who have been called by their own votes to administer the federal government under the Constitution of the United States. We know their treachery We know the shallow pretenses under which they daily disregard its obligations. Its obligations meaning its obligation to return slaves to the South. If we submit to them, it will be our fault and not theirs. The people of Georgia have ever been willing to stand by this bargain, this contract. They have never sought to evade any of its obligations. They have never hitherto sought to establish any new government. They have struggled to maintain the ancient right of themselves and the human race through and by that Constitution. Meaning, hey, we were fine with the U.S. Constitution. We wanted to be a union with y'all, but because y'all keep infringing on our rights to own slaves, y'all won't return our slaves, even though we fought in y'all's wars. We fought against Mexico. We fought against France. We giving y'all all this money, and y'all continue to disregard our right to slavery. This is what the state of Georgia has to say about it. If we submit to them, it will be our fault and not theirs. The people of Georgia, we've always we never sought to evade our obligations. We never started a new government, and they struggled to maintain the ancient right of ourselves against the human right through that Constitution. Man, we were all for the Constitution. But they know the value of parchment rights in treacherous hands, and therefore they refuse to commit their own to the rulers whom the North offers us. Why? Because by their declared principles and policy, they have outlawed $3 billion. Imagine. This is back in 1860 when this was written. This was written in 1860. And this is the state of Georgia. This is a primary source, meaning this is straight from the horse's mouth. This is coming from the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia giving its reasons for leaving the Union. They say that it cost them $3 billion. And let's just count these zeros real quick. We got 3 zeros, that's 1,000, right? 6 zeros, that's 100,000. 9 zeros, that's 100 million. $3 billion. $3 billion back in 1860 of our property, according to the state of Georgia, primary source. $3 billion of our property in the common territories of the Union. Put it under the ban of the Republicans in the states where it exists and out of the protection of the federal law everywhere, meaning you're going to free these naggers. Because they give sanctuaries to thieves and incendiaries who assail it to the whole extent of their power, in spite of their most solemn obligations and covenants. Because their avowed purpose is to subvert our society and subject us not only to the loss of our property, but the destruction of ourselves, our wives, and our children, and the desolation of our homes, our altars, and our firesides. None of that is true. The North wasn't trying to take your wives or your children. It wasn't trying to take your homes. The only thing Georgia has really said is about slavery. To avoid these evils, we resume the powers which our fathers delegated to the government of the United States, meaning our fathers gave the representation of the state of Georgia to the federal government. We're taking that back. And henceforth, we will seek new safeguards for our liberty, equality, security, and tranquility. Approved January 29th, 1861. All right. That is the reason the state of Georgia left the Union, left the United States government. Right. If you made it this far in the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't done so already, smash the subscribe button. More content just like this. Hey guys, some videos are more exciting than the others. I found this topic interesting. I wanted to know why the Revolutionary, or not Revolutionary War, why the Civil War occurred. And this is, according to the state of Mississippi, the month of April is Confederate Heritage Month. So just like February, the shortest month of the year, is African American History Month. Well, April, which has just 5 weeks in April this year, April is Confederate Heritage Month. So, in case you didn't know, this is why the state of Georgia left the Union. If you made it this far, thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next one.